this gland, which is in the center of your brain, is thought to be literally a third eye.
Hidden deep within your brain lies a tiny yet powerful organ, no bigger than a grain of rice. Positioned at the very center of your mind, between the two hemispheres, this mysterious structure has long been shrouded in fascination. Some call it the seat of the soul. Others see it as the gateway to higher perception, the bridge between the visible and the unseen. The forgotten eye at the center of your mind. This is the pineal gland. It is not new. It is not a mystery to scientists. It's not a secret to mystics, yogis, or seekers of ancient wisdom. But it is deeply misunderstood, ignored by most, numbed by habits, clouded by overstimulation, and underestimated in its potential. The pineal gland is your third eye. That isn't just symbolic. There is a reason it has been given this name by so many spiritual traditions. For thousands of years, cultures around the world, from the early Vedic sages in India to ancient Greek philosophers, from Taoist mystics to the teachings of the Egyptian priesthood, have all pointed toward a single truth. There is more to see than the eyes, and the truest form of vision does not happen with open eyes, but with an open mind. Let's begin with the science. The pineal gland is part of your endocrine system. Its primary known function is the regulation of sleep-wake cycles through the production of melatonin, a hormone it secretes in response to darkness. In this sense, it already plays a role in helping us transition between the physical and the unconscious, the outer world of action and the inner world of dreams. What makes it so special, though, is how unique it is. Unlike other parts of the brain, the pineal gland is not divided into hemispheres. It has a light-sensitive structure. It contains photoreceptors, much like the retina of the eye. And more curiously, it's the only part of the brain that is not separated by the blood-brain barrier. That means it has direct access to the bloodstream and is influenced easily by substances circulating in the body. All of this gives the pineal gland an incredibly responsive nature. It reacts to light, chemicals, and electrical signals. In scientific terms, it is highly sensitive. In spiritual terms, it is awake. Across countless traditions, the pineal gland, this third eye, has been revered as the point through which intuition, higher awareness, spiritual insight, and inner wisdom flow. Taoists described it as the crystal palace, a place where heaven and earth meet within the body. Even in Christian mysticism, references to the single eye, or eye of light, can be interpreted as a metaphor for the awakening of this inner vision. When people speak of opening the third eye, they are not talking about developing a superpower. They are talking about restoring a connection. The third eye is a tool of clarity, not fantasy. It allows us to see within, to recognize what is false in ourselves and the world, and to tune into deeper layers of truth that go far beyond words. And yet, for many people today, this eye remains closed. Why? There is no single reason, but many contributing ones. The modern world, with all its noise, speed, and excess, does not support inner stillness. The mind is constantly pulled outward, distracted by devices, information, and activity. The pineal gland, so sensitive by design, is bombarded with artificial light, disrupted sleep cycles, processed food, and environmental toxins. Fluoride exposure, for example, has been studied in relation to the calcification of the pineal gland. When the gland becomes hardened, its function may be reduced. This calcification process, combined with chronic stress and disconnection from natural rhythms, can cause the third eye to become dull or clouded. But that's not all. There is also an emotional and spiritual element. Most people are not encouraged to look inward. From a young age, the focus is placed on what's outside: achievement, appearance, and approval. Feelings are suppressed, intuition is dismissed, imagination is labeled as unrealistic. Over time, the voice of the inner self, the quiet knowing that rises from beyond logic, becomes harder to hear. This is the closing of the third eye. When the third eye is blocked, life tends to feel narrow, repetitive, and dull. You may feel stuck in patterns that don't make sense, disconnected from your deeper purpose, or trapped in a loop of overthinking and emotional confusion. You might find it hard to trust yourself or feel like something essential is missing, even if everything looks fine on the surface. But when the third eye begins to awaken, the world changes. Clarity sharpens. You begin to feel your way through life rather than forcing or guessing. You sense what resonates with truth and what doesn't, whether it's a conversation, a choice, or a path ahead. Dreams become more vivid. Synchronicities occur, intuition returns, emotional awareness deepens, and the experience of silence becomes not empty, but full of guidance, insight, and calm. Opening the third eye does not mean escaping the world. It means engaging with it differently, from a place of awareness, from a place of depth. Still, it must be said that not everyone is ready for this awakening all at once. It can be intense, uncomfortable even, because seeing clearly also means seeing the things you once tried to avoid, old wounds, forgotten memories, truths you've pushed away. But you may ask, why is your third eye closed? Why most people's third eye is closed? You didn't mean to close your third eye. No one does. It doesn't shut like a door slammed in anger. It dims slowly, like a flame denied air, until one day you don't even notice it's missing. You've grown used to the dark, and yet something inside still remembers the light. The third eye, or pineal gland, was never meant to be locked away. In its natural state, it flows freely with intuitive insight, peaceful awareness, and vivid inner vision. It helps you perceive things beyond the surface, beyond the noise. But for many people today, this flow feels distant, buried beneath layers of fog. So how does this happen? Why do so many live with their inner vision muted? It begins quietly, with the way the world moves. From an early age, we're taught to trust what we can see and measure. We're handed rules and routines, and we're praised for following them. Slowly, imagination is replaced by information. Feelings are replaced by facts. Inner knowing is drowned out by outer noise. But the third eye speaks softly. It doesn't shout over the world. It waits for stillness. In modern life, that stillness is rare. We spend our days surrounded by flickering screens and artificial light. We wake to alarms and go to sleep under glowing lamps. The pineal gland, which responds to natural rhythms of light and dark, loses its bearings. Its sensitivity becomes dulled. This is not a punishment. It's just what happens when we drift away from our natural design. The pineal gland thrives on rhythm: sunrise, sunset, silence, rest. It is tuned to the quiet changes of the earth, like the lunar cycle and the rising of tides. Ancient people honored these cycles. They lived by the light of stars, the sounds of nature, and the pull of the seasons. They knew, without being told, that they were part of something vast and alive. Now, many live under a kind of static hum, always on, always reacting, always on alert. This constant state of stimulation, mentally, physically, emotionally, pulls energy away from the deeper layers of awareness. The third eye does not thrive in chaos. It begins to withdraw, not because it's gone, but because it's drowned out. There's also the body to consider. As mentioned before, the pineal gland is sensitive to what enters the bloodstream. Over time, exposure to certain chemicals like fluoride, heavy metals, and processed additives can contribute to what is called calcification. This means the gland becomes hardened, less flexible, and less able to receive signals. Think of it like a lens coated in dust. It doesn't break, but it can't see clearly. But not all blocks are physical. Some are emotional, energetic, quietly formed through years of self-doubt, fear, and emotional suppression. The third eye is connected to perception, not just of the outer world, but the inner one. When you experience trauma, pain, or deep fear, you often close yourself off as a form of protection. You stop trusting what you feel. You disconnect from your instincts. You learn to survive rather than to sense. Each time you ignore your inner voice, your third eye dims a little more. You've probably felt it before, that moment when something inside told you this wasn't right, but you silenced it. Maybe you stayed in a place or a relationship that felt wrong. Maybe you pushed away emotions you didn't want to feel. Maybe you kept going when your whole body was asking you to stop. These are not failures. They are human. They are part of the forgetting. But now, you are beginning to remember. You are beginning to notice the moments of inner pull, the flashes of insight, the sudden stillness, the dream that lingers long after waking. That is your third eye whispering again. It never left you. It simply waited. There is one more reason the third eye closes, and it's perhaps the deepest of all: fear of seeing. True sight, the kind the third eye offers, is not always comfortable. It shows things as they are, not as you wish them to be. It reveals the stories you've told yourself, the patterns you've clung to, and the masks you wear. It invites you to see the truth about the world, about others, and most of all, about yourself. This kind of seeing is freeing, but it can also feel like standing naked in a mirror you can't look away from. So the third eye stays closed, not because it's broken, but because some part of you has decided that seeing might hurt more than hiding. But what if that's no longer true? What if you are strong enough now to look? Not with judgment, not with blame, but with curiosity. The third eye does not force you to change. It simply helps you notice what is real, what is needed, what is possible. It allows you to move through life with a kind of knowing that doesn't come from logic or memory, but from direct experience. It is like touching the edges of something eternal and remembering that you belong to it. When your third eye begins to open, it may not feel dramatic. There might not be visions or colors or lights. Instead, you might just begin to feel clear, calm. You might start to hear your inner voice more often. You might begin to trust it. You might begin to remember who you really are. That remembering begins not with effort, but with attention. What the third eye really sees. You might think the third eye is just about visions, flashes of color, swirling patterns, strange images in meditation. But that's not the truth. What the third eye offers is far more powerful than that. It isn't only about seeing things that others can't. It's about seeing what's already there, but deeply, clearly, purely. With no filter, no fog, no fear, just awareness. The third eye isn't about escaping reality. It's about entering it fully. Most people walk through life looking with their eyes, but not really seeing. They recognize faces, follow signs, read texts, and glance at headlines. But under the surface, they're missing the subtle language of the world around them, the feelings between words, the quiet truth behind someone's smile, the energy that flows between people and places. That's what the third eye is tuned into. It's not just a spiritual concept, it's also physical. It lives inside your brain, nestled deep between the two hemispheres, in the space where science and spirit begin to merge. This tiny gland, the pineal, shaped like a pine cone, is a gateway. It receives information in ways your five senses can't. It processes patterns, light, rhythms, and even spiritual impressions. When it's awake, you don't just see, you understand, not with words, but with knowing. It's like standing at the edge of a vast ocean, and instead of measuring the waves, you feel the entire current. You're no longer just observing life, you're inside it, swimming in its layers. This is what ancient mystics spoke of, what yogis meditated upon, what prophets and visionaries tried to explain. It's not something you invent, it's something you return to. In ancient texts, the third eye was known as the ajna center, literally meaning to perceive or to command. It governs your inner guidance system. When this center is open, you are no longer tossed around by doubt or pulled in all directions by fear. You become steady, quiet inside, rooted in something unshakable. Not because life stops being uncertain, but because you stop needing all the answers at once. That's the first thing the third eye shows you, clarity. Clarity isn't the same as control. It's deeper than that. It's the ability to be present with whatever is, without panic, without denial, without running. It's feeling pain and knowing it will pass. It's sensing joy and letting yourself fully experience it without clinging. It's the deep breath before the storm and the stillness after it's gone. Then comes intuition. Not the vague kind that gets tossed around in quotes and bumper stickers, but the real kind, the inner compass that points true when everything else spins. When your third eye is awake, intuition becomes your language. It's how you move through your days. You sense things without evidence. You know before words are spoken. Not because you're guessing, but because you're connected. The third eye doesn't just show you visions, it makes you visionary. You see possibilities others miss. You see through distractions. You sense what matters. That's why so many artists, musicians, healers, and teachers throughout time have spoken of a higher vision or a guiding light. That wasn't poetry. It was real perception. They weren't gifted. They were tuned in. The good news? You can tune in too. The third eye also awakens inner sight, the kind that turns inward. Instead of looking outside for validation, love, safety, and answers, you begin to look inward. You begin to trust your own presence. That's why awakening the third eye can feel emotional at times. You begin to see the parts of yourself you've pushed away, the inner child, the protective armor, the voices you borrowed from others that told you who to be. You begin to see your own patterns, your habits, your fears, your quiet wishes you never said out loud. It can be intense, but it's beautiful, because only by seeing can you begin to heal. The third eye invites you to meet yourself completely, to come home to your own being, not as an idea, not as a project, but as a presence. And there's more. When your third eye is open, you begin to sense the world as alive, not just with trees and birds and rivers, but consciousness everywhere. You feel the pulse of the earth. You feel the thoughts of a room. You feel the way certain people or places either drain or uplift you. You understand that everything is energy, and you become fluent in its language. You don't react blindly anymore. You respond wisely. You move through life with eyes that see behind the veil. It's not about becoming superhuman. It's about becoming fully human. The reason many never reach this state isn't because it's hidden. It's because it's quiet. And the world is loud. But you are here, reading this. Which means a part of you already remembers. You wouldn't be drawn to these words if something in you hadn't already begun to stir. You wouldn't be curious about the third eye if yours wasn't already beginning to blink open. You don't need to chase it. You just need to clear the space. You just need to stop long enough to feel. Stillness is the soil. Intention is the seed. Preparing the body and mind for inner sight. Before the third eye truly opens, there's a softening that needs to happen. It doesn't matter how badly you want it or how many techniques you know. If the body is tense, if the mind is loud, if the heart is closed, it won't be ready. The third eye isn't something you switch on like a light. It's more like a flower that blooms when the season is right. So before we talk about how to unlock the third eye, we need to talk about what gets in its way. Let's start with the body. Your physical body isn't just a shell. It's not something separate from your spirit. It holds memory, emotion, energy, and most importantly, it holds your attention. When the body is under stress or full of toxins, that attention gets hijacked. You're pulled into tension, inflammation, and fatigue. You can't go inward when your body is constantly shouting at you. That's why ancient traditions emphasized cleansing of both body and mind before deep spiritual work. Your pineal gland, the physical anchor of your third eye, is especially sensitive to this. Today, many people's pineal glands are sluggish or even calcified. This happens slowly, over time, due to things like poor sleep, processed food, artificial chemicals, environmental toxins, and chronic stress. The gland becomes cloudy, the signal weakens, and the inner eye closes. But the good news is, your body knows how to heal. When you begin to nourish yourself, when you allow stillness, when you return to natural rhythms, your third eye begins to remember. You don't need perfection. You just need presence. Start simply. Drink clean water. Breathe deeply. Step outside and let real sunlight touch your skin, especially in the early morning. Sleep with intention. Eat foods that are alive. Fruits, greens, seeds, roots. Avoid what numbs you. Move your body gently every day, not for performance, but for circulation. These aren't rules, they're invitations. As you make these shifts, notice how your mind begins to soften. This brings us to the second part of the preparation, the inner noise. The mind is a powerful thing. It creates, protects, and analyzes, but left unchecked, it becomes a storm of thoughts. Regret, comparison, fear, worry. It spins and pulls your energy out in 1,000 directions. And the third eye is subtle. It won't open in chaos. It waits for quiet. You don't need to stop thinking. That's not the point. You just need to stop believing every thought. This is where stillness begins to work its magic. Stillness doesn't mean sitting like a statue. It means making space. 10 minutes of silence each morning can begin to change your brain. Breathing deeply into your belly, slowly and gently, calms the nervous system. It tells your body, I am safe. You begin to reclaim your awareness from the noise of the world. And with that awareness comes presence, and with presence comes power. One of the simplest and oldest practices for third eye activation is breath awareness. Sit, breathe, and simply observe the air entering and leaving your body, noticing it, feeling it, not trying to control it, just being with it. In the beginning, your mind will resist. That's okay, let it. That's part of the work. Each time you return to the breath, you are building the strength of your inner attention. You are saying quietly, I choose presence. Over time, that presence becomes deeper, more stable, more magnetic. You begin to feel the energy move. You begin to feel your awareness drift inward, not to escape, but to listen. This is where the real work begins. And here's the thing most people forget. The third eye doesn't open from the top down. It opens from the ground up. You need to be rooted before you rise. Think of your awareness like a tree. The deeper the roots, the higher the branches can reach. If your root chakra, your base, and your physical body aren't grounded, your spiritual vision won't be stable. You'll drift. You'll doubt it. You'll feel disoriented. That's why preparation is so important. Ground yourself through stillness, through nature, through touch, through laughter, through honesty. Be here, in your body, in your life. Because the third eye doesn't take you away from this world. It lets you see it as it truly is. As your body grows still and your mind grows clear, something begins to stir, a quiet vibration, a soft pull behind your forehead, a feeling like a thought that isn't yours, or a memory you haven't lived. You may begin to notice flashes when your eyes are closed, patterns, lights, or simply a knowing that you're being drawn inward. This is the first stirring of the third eye, the gentle blink, the turning inward. Some traditions call this the blue pearl, the subtle light that appears in deep meditation. Others describe it as a soft pressure or a wave of warmth between the brows. Some feel it during dreams. Others sense it when they are completely present with another person, when words fall away and connection becomes real. These are signs, markers. You are moving closer, but still we wait, because the third eye does not open through force. It opens through readiness. That readiness begins with the body, then the breath, then the stillness, and finally, the intention. Emotional energy, the hidden gatekeeper of the third eye. You may think you're ready, your body is cleaner, your breath is steady, your thoughts don't race quite like they used to. You've made space, you've built quiet. You've begun to feel a pull behind the forehead, soft, familiar, magnetic. And yet, something holds you back, something subtle, a weight you can't name, a whisper just beneath the stillness. This is where most stop, because this part of the journey isn't spoken of often. It's not glamorous. It's not filled with visions or revelations, but it's everything. This is the part no technique can bypass. Emotion. You can clean your body and still carry pain. You can calm your thoughts and still hold shame. You can sit in silence and still feel unworthy. These feelings, unspoken, unprocessed, don't disappear just because you're spiritual. They live in the body, they shape the breath, and most importantly, they cloud the third eye like smoke around a flame. The pineal gland doesn't just respond to diet and sleep, it responds to truth. And the truth is, if your heart is closed, your third eye remains sealed. Because to truly see, you must first feel. This is not about suffering, it's about releasing what no longer serves you. Think of it like a mirror. If your third eye is a mirror that reflects truth, emotion is the dust that gathers over time, anger that wasn't expressed, grief that wasn't allowed, fear that was ignored. All of it covers the mirror, not because you failed, but because you are human. And here's the most important thing. These feelings are not enemies. They are energy. They don't want to hurt you. They want to move. Every ancient tradition knew this. In yogic teachings, the energy that flows through you, called prana, gets blocked when emotion is denied. In Taoist practice, the meridians hold specific emotions, anger in the liver and sadness in the lungs. In mystical Christianity, the dark night of the soul was never a punishment. It was a passage, a purification, a breaking of the heart. And in each of these, the third eye doesn't truly awaken until the heart is cleansed. This is why many people get a glimpse of inner vision, but then it fades. They felt something, saw something, sensed something, but it didn't stay. Because the emotional body wasn't ready to hold that much truth. So what can you do? You don't need to go digging. You don't need to relive every wound. You simply need to feel what is already here. Sit, be still, and ask yourself, what am I carrying that I never gave myself permission to feel? Don't rush the answer. Let it rise. You may feel an ache in your chest. You may feel pressure in your throat. You may cry without knowing why. Good. That's good. That's movement. Emotion is energy in motion. When you stop holding it down, it flows. And when it flows, it clears. Many people confuse emotional release with weakness. But on this path, it's the strongest thing you can do. You're telling your body, I'm listening now. You're telling your heart, you don't need to guard me anymore. You're telling your soul, I am ready to see. And here's where something beautiful happens. As the emotional body softens, the third eye begins to brighten, not with lightning bolts or visions of other worlds, but with simple clarity, a deep calm, a silent knowing. The fog clears, the colors seem sharper, time feels slower. You start to feel when someone's words don't match their energy. You sense what's really being said, even in silence. You dream more vividly. You make decisions with ease. You just know things. This is the third eye, beginning to open, not wide yet, but enough to shift the way you walk through life. And now we must mention the final thing before full awakening can begin. Intention. Not wishful thinking, not hope. Clear, sacred intention. Because the third eye is not a party trick. It is not for show. It opens for those who seek to live truthfully, to love deeply, to serve life, not just the self. Ask yourself, why do you want to open your third eye? To control something? Or is it to see more clearly, to feel more deeply, to remember who you really are? Your answer will shape everything, because intention is the compass of your spiritual energy. When your desire is aligned with your highest self, the third eye responds like a flower in sunlight. Now, how do you open your third eye? Ancient methods to open the third eye. In Egypt, it was depicted through the Eye of Horus, a symbol of protection, insight, and sacred perception. In Tibetan practices, the third eye was opened through mantra and breath, never rushed, always reverent. These methods still live today, passed quietly from teacher to student, seeker to seeker, and they all share one truth. You don't force the third eye open, you invite it, you court it. You create a space where it naturally unfolds. Let's begin with breath. By now, you've already felt the power of simple breath awareness, but there's a deeper layer. Ancient yogic science called it pranayama, not just breathing, but extending life force. One of the most powerful breath practices for awakening the third eye is nadi shodhana, or alternate nostril breathing. It balances the left and right hemispheres of the brain. It soothes the nervous system, but more importantly, it clears the subtle energy channels, called nadis, especially the one that runs directly through the center of the body and up to the third eye. You don't need to sit for hours. Just 5 minutes of alternate nostril breathing each day, done slowly and gently, begins to shift your entire inner frequency. After a while, you may feel a slight buzzing at the brow. That's your body responding. That's awareness flowing. Next, sound. Your pineal gland doesn't just respond to chemistry, it responds to vibration. Many traditions used sound to activate this center. In Hinduism, the sound Om is said to resonate directly with the frequency of the third eye. In Tibetan Buddhism, deep, low chants are used to dissolve the ego and open the inner world. Even modern studies show that certain frequencies, especially around 432 Hz or 936 Hz, can activate the pineal region. You don't need a teacher to try. Sit quietly, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and hum the sound Om, letting the vibration echo through your skull, especially toward the center of your forehead. Feel it. Don't think. Feel. Do this for a few minutes. You may notice a tingling. You may see colors behind closed eyes, or you may just feel more centered. The sound clears the fog. The breath creates flow. Now bring in light. Sunlight is your ally here. The pineal gland is a light-sensitive organ. In ancient times, it helped regulate not just sleep, but awareness. Early morning sun, soft and golden, has a special charge. When you let it hit your closed eyelids, especially while relaxed and meditative, The light begins to activate dormant circuits in the brain. Try it. Go outside at sunrise. Face the sun with your eyes closed. Breathe. Let the warmth spread across your forehead. As you breathe, gently bring your awareness to the center of your brow. Don't force, just feel. This is not just relaxation, this is waking up. You can also combine light, sound, and breath. The effect is powerful, but not overwhelming. It brings you into alignment with what's already moving inside you, and then stillness again, because after you activate, you receive. That's the part most people forget. They get excited, they try to do more, try harder, and push for a result. But the third eye doesn't respond to pressure, it responds to trust, to surrender. After breath, after light, after sound, sit in silence, eyes closed. Gaze inward, not with your eyes, but with your attention. Rest that attention gently at the point between your brows. Let it float there. Don't analyze, don't expect. Just be. Over time, things begin to happen. You may start seeing flashes of light, patterns, swirls of color, or you may begin receiving thoughts that feel not like thoughts, more like downloads, a full knowing arriving without logic. This is the language of the third eye, and with it comes clarity. Not just about other people, but about yourself. You begin to see where your fear hides, where your joy lives, what's real and what's an illusion. You see the stories you've been told, the patterns you've inherited, the beliefs that kept you small, and from that place of inner sight, you begin to live differently. You speak less, but with more meaning. You listen more, but without absorbing others' chaos. You trust your instincts. You sense when something is off, even if everything looks perfect on the surface. You walk into a room and feel the energy before anyone speaks. You're no longer guessing, you're knowing. This is not magic. This is you, finally tuned to your own frequency. Living with the eye open. Opening is only the beginning. Living with it open is the real path. With your third eye active, you see more, but not just the light. You see shadows too. You feel people's intentions without them saying a word. You walk into a room and immediately sense the energy. Sometimes it's peaceful, other times thick with fear or anger. You can no longer pretend not to notice. That sensitivity is a gift, but it can feel like a burden too. This is where grounding becomes essential. You have to stay connected to the earth, to your body, to your breath. Otherwise, your awareness becomes scattered. You start picking up everything, everywhere, all at once, and you weren't built to carry it all. When the third eye is open, discernment becomes your ally. Just because you sense something doesn't mean you have to react. Just because you see through someone's mask doesn't mean you have to rip it off. Wisdom knows when to speak, and when silence is the greater force. This is how the third eye matures, from reaction to responsibility, from information to integration. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, "Be unmoved by pleasure and pain, gain and loss." Your inner eye cannot hold its gaze if your inner world is always shaking. So, how do you stay centered? By living with intention. You begin each day with awareness. Maybe it's 5 minutes of breath. Maybe it's facing the sun with eyes closed. Maybe it's just one question whispered to your heart. What is mine to carry today? You listen. You move slowly. You consume differently. You no longer chase constant distraction because your inner life is finally rich enough. You become more selective with what you read, what you watch, who you give your time to, not out of judgment, but out of honor. You start honoring your energy, your attention, your truth, and people feel it. Some will be drawn to you, not because of your words, but because of your presence. You'll meet people who recognize something in you. even if they don't know what it is. They'll feel safe around you, seen, understood. Others may pull away. You may lose relationships that once seemed important, but if they can't handle your light, they were built for your shadow. The third eye changes how you love too. You no longer confuse attention with affection. You don't need someone to complete you. You see yourself clearly now. You recognize when love is free and true, and when it's tangled in need and illusion. You become less reactive, less afraid, because you trust what you feel before the mind jumps in. And then something remarkable begins to happen. You start to remember what you came here for, not the job, not the titles, not the chase, but the purpose. Maybe it's to create, maybe it's to teach, to heal, to guide. Maybe it's just to live simply and be a light for those near you. Whatever it is, it begins rising from deep within you, no longer buried under distraction. When your third eye is open, your inner compass turns on. You stop looking outside for every answer. You begin consulting the space between your eyebrows, not with thought, but with presence. Decisions come easily. Synchronicities unfold more often. You walk through life with a quiet knowing, I am guided. Even in chaos, you're not thrown off. Even in darkness, you're not afraid. Even in silence, you are not alone. Because now, you see, not with your physical eyes, but with the eye behind the eye. The witness, the observer, the soul. And here's the final truth. Your third eye is not a thing to be unlocked once and forgotten. It's a relationship, a devotion, a lifelong return to clarity. Some days it will feel wide open, vivid, alive. On other days it may feel quiet again, like a dream slipping away. That's okay. The eye doesn't need to be on all the time. It needs to be respected. Keep nourishing it. Feed it with silence, with nature, with intention. Rest it when the world gets too loud. Protect it from doubt, from cynicism, from overthinking. Because you're not meant to live in the clouds. You're meant to walk with feet on the ground and vision in your soul. You are not here to escape reality. You are here to see it clearly, live it truthfully, and love it deeply. And in doing so, you light the way for others. This is the gift of the third eye. Not magic, not power, but clarity. And in a world of confusion, clarity may be the most powerful gift of all. Now take a breath, close your eyes, gently rest your attention at the center of your brow. Feel it, let it open, and from this moment on, see. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.